Y'all, this week's lineup is hard, except for one of them. Welcome, metalheads. I'm the host of Heavy Metal Philosophy and writer for Metal Digest, JonBarbas. Make sure you stick around to the end of the episode for this week's album art of the week. It's the weekend. That means we got new metal albums to talk about, and I'm bringing you my 5 favorite. But before we get to the top 5, we always talk about the big band releases of the week, so let's get that out of the way. First up, Meshuggah just released Immutable, the Indelible Edition. Now, I don't normally cover re-releases and special editions on this show, but it's Meshuggah, y'all. And there's a new record from Bleed From Within called Zenith. And I've always had a soft spot for these bands that are kind of mellow death, kind of metalcore, because it's all heavy. And Rotting Christ is celebrating their 35th anniversary with a live album called 35 Years of Evil Existence, live in Lycabettus. And after you've reached the status that Rotting Christ has and you've been around for 35 years, you sort of become one of these multi-generational bands. And now's about the time that most bands would put out a greatest hits record, but I love what they did here. Put out a live record. If I was going to introduce the next generation to Rotting Christ, I would do it with this album. It's career spanning, plus it shows off one of their greatest strengths. I think Rotting Christ is one of the best live bands in black metal. And this one's huge, y'all. The latest record from Allegiant, the Ossuary Lens. I got my hands on this one early. Y'all know what that means. My written review is already published in Metal Digest. Links in the descriptions to all my writings. And I'm telling y'all, this one's going to be on a lot of people's album of the year list. I'm fairly certain it's going to be on mine. This is killer 1%er stuff right here. You absolutely have to get this one. And lastly, before we jump into the top 5, a new record from Benediction, Ravage of Empires, old school death metal, one of the OGs out of the UK, and we support the OGs of death metal around here. Now let's do the top 5. Coming in at number 5, Bleeth with Marionette. This is some doomy post-metal out of Florida. Now, when I say the words doom metal and post-metal, that might conjure ideas in your mind of the way this band sounds, but don't take those descriptors as a characterization of sound, but rather of tone, because this band has a lot of different sounds, a lot of different moods and atmospheres, and it's all done with a pretty basic tool set. That's the magic of this band. They are like an actor that can express a strong emotion with just a simple facial expression versus somebody that needs to do some sort of long diatribe and soliloquy. Nobody really talks like that. I feel much more with this band. Less is more, and Bleeth is a lot. Coming in at number 4, Kiritsis with their self-titled album Sludge Metal out of Indiana. This is that abrasive sludge metal that only a depraved reprobate like me could love. And cool, beat me over the head with raw, no-nonsense aggression. I'm gonna love that. But then the 4th track, It Ain't Easy, comes in and it slows things down to this face-twisting groove. I love that song so much that the next song came in and it was furious, hardcore punk influenced, which is the sort of thing that I'm normally in love with. But in this case, I just kept wanting to go back to It Ain't Easy. But thankfully, the rest of the record also contains that sort of pipe-clogging filth. This is one of those records where if you're feeling pent up, put it on, clench your fists up, and it'll get it out of you. Coming in at number 3, Tomorrow. Beyond Obsidian Euphoria, progressive black metal out of Georgia, ATL Rise Up. And I love this record because, yeah, it's black metal, it's about suffering, and it's bleak, and it's got dark moods, but it's also airy and dreamy because this is a band that is, yes, talking about suffering, but it has ambitions to look beyond and to progress past this material plane. And so that requires a bit of optimism. You don't have hope without belief in its possibility, and that sort of mood is captured well on this record. It's got a dual vocal attack that's both harsh and uplifting. So with that lofty goal in mind, only music this dense could ever approach that ambition. And I gotta say, every instrument on this shows technical brilliance, but it never does it out of a ego-stroking show-off sort of sense. It's very subdued. These are like brushstrokes attempting to paint the divine. Coming in at number 2, and this one's going to lead really well into this week's book recommendation, Stoic Suffering with All Tomorrows. Now, if you take a lot of metalheads, they will fit neatly in the center point of a Venn diagram that contains horror and extreme metal. This sounds like the soundtrack, the Deathcore soundtrack to a crossover between something like Event Horizon and Ridley Scott's Aliens. And that's cool, you know, all the electronics and stuff, they're not used to sound danceable or modern. It just is used to create sense of dread. But it's also super heavy because the other Venn diagram is between deathcore and slam. So I love this one as a sci-fi fan, as a music nerd, and as somebody that loves it real heavy. All right, before we do number 1, we're going to do a book recommendation. Last week, I tried a new experiment on book recommendations, and it was nearly unanimous that all of y'all like the book recommendation. So we're going to make that a regular segment on the show. However, I've been thinking about it all week. I'm thinking once a month. That way I'm not doing 52 book recommendations a year. And also, I would like to save this segment and keep it flexible for other things, because I've got other fun things coming up like unboxings and merch drops. So I want to keep it flexible. Once a month seems like the sweet spot. So we talked about sci-fi on the last record, that Stoic Suffering All Tomorrow's record. So I figured I would recommend one of my favorite sci-fi books ever. This is Blind Sight by Peter Watts. Blind Sight by Peter Watts, one of my favorite sci-fi books. And the reason why is because there are some head-bending philosophical concepts in here. Like, one of the creatures in this book is far more intelligent than humans and even computers, and it's also not conscious. And I would have assumed that consciousness is required for intelligence. Otherwise, it's just computation. But this book actually argues that consciousness holds back intelligence, which I found fascinating. Let me set up the world for you a little bit. It's in the future, and humans have basically perfected themselves with genetic modification and technological augments. And there's vampires in the book. And so some sort of alien presence all of a sudden, out of nowhere in the future, takes a big picture of the Earth. All of a sudden, there's flashes of light all around the Earth, and the scientists figure out that something just took a picture in 360 degrees all around the Earth, and that's reconnaissance. We need to know what did that. We need to know now. So they did like a national global emergency. Everybody tried to figure out what happened. They figured out there's this thing on the edge, on the outside of the solar system, and they need to investigate this now. So they get together a group of humans that are super smart, have all sorts of different abilities thanks to their augmentations, and the captain of the ship that's going to go out there is a vampire. That's a real smart thing to do. And they're going to investigate, and spoiler alert, it's an alien. And when they get out there and they're trying to figure out what's going on, that's when all kinds of crazy stuff happens. One of my favorite books, Blind Sight by Peter Watts. In the description will be a link where you can get this book. Thank you so much. Now let's do number 1. Coming in at number 1, Wrath of Logarius with Crown of Mortis, formless black metal out of California. Now, first of all, promise I didn't pick them number 1 because they were on my podcast this week. It's between this record and the Elegian record, easily my favorite of the week. I sat and thought about it. I actually thought about, I should make this one number 2 because I'm always picking whoever was on my podcast for number 1. Well, that's partly because I invite people on the podcast that I really dig their music. But I just really like this record. It's so heavy, y'all. And the formless part of it is not just because they do different genres. It's because the transitions to those genres are seamless. They could be doing a death metal growl, and then all of a sudden you notice, hey, that's post-black metal. Hey, that's atmospheric black metal. It doesn't switch. There's no build-up to it. It just is. That's what makes it formless, and most importantly, it is super heavy. I love it. And we're not done yet. Dealer's Choice and Album Art of the Week coming. All right, longtime subscribers know that the Dealer's Choice segment allows me to break the rules. And this week I'm picking an album that's not necessarily metal. I would call this hard rock. Nonetheless, I really dug it. It's Lopan with Get Well Soon, some hard rock, kind of stoner rock out of Ohio. And when I first put this on, I was like, yeah, this is fun, rock and roll. Singer's really good, really belting singer. But as I was listening to it, I started to notice there's a lot of Tool grooves on this. And once I made that realization, then I'm hearing it everywhere. But it's not dreary and dark and, let's be honest, a little bit pretentious like Tool. This is fun rock and roll. It's just got that energy and that groove. It has the hunger that Tool had before they started writing things towards the Fibonacci sequence and starting a wine vineyard and stuff like that. Grimy rock and roll. Kind of hard too. Again, I wouldn't call it metal, but you know how rock and roll, when it gets heavy enough, you still start bobbing your head. That's Lopan. Dug this one. Check it out. My favorite album art this week comes from Eldamar, Astral Journeys Part 2, Dissolution. This is ambient / atmospheric black metal out of Norway. But check out this album art. I mean, all hail to one of the GOATs, Marius Lewandowski. But it's not just because I love his art and I'm biased towards him that I'm picking this. I also love that the band matched the art to their concepts, Astral Journeys. I love the cube in the sky with the face coming out of it, and then the cube underneath with the silhouettes, the figures, the visages, just some sort of astral beings in the sky over the cliffside. A very Marius Lewandowski piece, if you know what I mean. And the music is cool too, so make sure you check this one out. Now, before you go, remember, there's 3 ways that you can support heavy metal philosophy. The first way, and this is the most important, and if you're here now, you've already done it. You watched till the end. If you liked any of these bands, hit the like button. That's the best way to support heavy metal philosophy, and I really appreciate it. If you want to go beyond that, you can buy the book from the book recommendation, and I will get a small commission off of that. Or if you want to go beyond that, head over to JonBarbas-shop.fourthwall.com and pick you up some heavy metal philosophy merch. Wear it in front of your friends. Let them know. And if the number 1 album this week, Wrath of Ligarius, Crown of Mortis, made you curious, hey, what's formless black metal? Just click right here and you'll get that episode of the podcast. But most importantly, read philosophy, listen to metal. I love you.